What vegetables do you eat?
None.
Do you eat potatoes?
Yeah,
Okay. Is that the only vegetable?
probably, yeah.
Just white vegetables?
Yeah.
Corn?
Yeah.
Okay, corn and potatoes. What about peas?
No.
Carrots?
No.
Cauliflower.
Do you like cauliflower?
Sometimes,
Huh. Why sometimes?
because it just tastes good.
Yeah. Well, when does it not taste good?
When you have it by itself,
Ah, so you need, what do you have on it or with it that makes it taste good?
some corn and some silverside.
Yeah. Do you ever, like when you've had a plate like that, do you eat things all together or do you save the bit that you like for last or do you eat the bit that you most like first?
I'm most like last
Why?
because you can take a long time to eat it. It's the best flavour.
Yeah, so you save it to last.
Yeah.
You're listening to Shift. Shift stands for Shaping How I Feel Today. My name is Zane, and I'm your host for this episode, where you're going to get a bunch of different stories on today's theme, which is delayed gratification. A couple of big words, but don't worry, you know what it is. You know when your mum or dad or whoever says, you have to eat that before you get dessert? That's delayed gratification. You were just listening to Jackson and Morris at the top of the show, getting the conversation about delaying gratification started. But before we go any further, we want to acknowledge that we are telling stories to you today from the country of the Dharawal, Alauri and Wadi peoples. And we pay our respects to the elders from generations past, whose wisdom comes down to us through the elders of today, and continues on, creating the leaders and elders of tomorrow. Life is made up of pleasure and pain, right? This guy named M. Scott Peck wrote a book called The Road Less Travelled, and in it, he talked about delaying gratification. He said that you can make the pleasure of life even better if you meet the pain first and get it over and done with. Okay, so now you've had your pain, that was the boring quotey bit, now we can get into the stories. The stories we have for you today are: Story 1, 1000 Crappy Old Fridges, where we consider the amazing things money can buy. Story 2, Late Night, about a girl who wants what she wants now. Story 3, Marshmallows, where we yarn about a famous, slightly creepy experiment. Story 4, Bad Food, where we give you our next level recipe for Spanish omelette. Story 5, Seeing in the Dark, where we get real about healthy food messages. Story 6, One Shiny Paperclip, where you can learn about how to trade a paperclip for, well, you'll find out. Shift is one of our podcasts from the edge. There was a study done quite a few years ago now in Australia called Falling Off the Edge that identified the postcodes in Australia that are disadvantaged. We are a group of young people who happen to live in some of those postcodes. What's it like? Normal, I guess. That's what we know. And when we are little, we don't even have a concept that anybody else might have lives any different. But as you grow up, you start to figure it out. Story 1, 1000 Crappy Old Fridges.
I hadn't really thought about it before, but there it was. People actually buy their own houses. I mean, I knew it happened. I just didn't think I'd know anyone who did. I mean, we don't even own a car, and most of the neighbours are renting TVs and washing machines and fridges. We own our fridge, but we brought it off our neighbour when the old one died. Mum paid $100 for it. But I was at my friend Josie's place. She lives up the hill. Her dad was building a veranda, and that's when it hit me. You can't do that in your housing commission house. I asked Josie how much their house cost. Don't know. She asked her dad. I brought it for $100,000. Be worth a lot more than that now though. $100,000? I couldn't imagine ever having that much money. That's like buying 1000 crappy old fridges. Crazy, huh?
Shout out to Michaela, who features in our story. It can get to you. Once you start to realise, you can try to put it out of your mind. Look at the positives. There's heaps of good things that you have. Just because you don't have all the stuff someone else has, who needs that stuff anyway? Better to be happy than rich, or that. But like I said, sometimes it can just get to you. Story 2, Late Night. And just a quick warning, this story and 2 other stories in this episode have a swear word. It's the S word, to be specific. If you prefer a beeped version, we'll pop a link for that on our website.
Kimberly and Adele are sitting in the car.
It's parked in the driveway.
It's not going anywhere. The front bumper bar and headlights are smashed.
It's smashed up.
And the bonnet is crumpled up like origami.
Adele is scanning through the social media feed on her phone.
On her phone.
Kimberly has no phone.
Hers broke months ago.
And well, apparently there's no money to get another one.
Kimberly sees herself scowling about this in the rear-view vision mirror as she puts on her makeup.
They're getting ready to go to late night,
Do you want to get your earpiece?
says Adele.
As if, thinks Kimberly. But she doesn't want Adele to think she's povo, so she says,
Yeah, what about you? Yeah,
damn it, she thinks.
I'm just gonna go inside and ask if I can get some money.
She rates her chances of this somewhere between Buckley's and none.
Mum, can I have some money?
No.
Why not? Adele's got money, she's getting her ears pierced.
Yeah, well, I can't help that. What are you wearing? You're not wearing that down the shops.
Why not?
It's winter. You'll get cold. You're not going to the beach.
I'm not cold though.
Look, if you don't get changed, you're not going.
But I have to go with
Hang on,
Adele.
hang on.
Kimberly's mum is on the
The
phone.
person who she was waiting for is finally getting back on to talk to her.
And she turns away to concentrate on the call. Kimberly sneaks over to her mum's purse, sitting on the bench next to the fish tank where it always was.
Yep. No, I'll definitely pay for it in a
Just a few
fortnight.
coins, she thinks, helping
Yeah,
herself.
just a car accident and a few unexpected bills. You know, I really appreciate your help. And thanks for talking to your supervisor.
Kimberly glances over at her mum, who hasn't seen anything, and heads upstairs.
She passes her sister, who is on the way down.
Her sister says nothing to her.
That's the way it goes between them.
At the top of the stairs, she heads for her room.
And then stops.
Another idea,
She glances back downstairs to make sure her sister had actually headed out the front door.
and then sneaks down the corridor into her sister's room.
Now, where could it be?
She pulls the drawers quietly out and raffles through the contents.
Her sister had bought this t-shirt with her birthday money, and Kimberly had asked if she could borrow it, but no way.
That's the way it goes between them.
She sneaks back to her room and tries it on.
Perfect fit.
She puts a zip hoodie over the top to hide it and placate her mum, and goes back downstairs.
Is this fine?
Her mum turns from where she is putting the bills back into the drawer where she keeps them,
She nods.
approving of the change of clothes. Her mum seems less stressed.
She comes over and gives Kimberly a kiss on the forehead.
Hang on.
She goes over to her purse.
Kimberly suddenly feels a bit nervous, but Mum comes back with a $5 note.
Catch the bus home. Make sure you're with your friends when you do, okay?
See ya.
Have fun.
Kimberly and Adele head off.
It's a Thursday.
Everyone will be there.
Late night.
First stop.
First stop. Ear piercing.
Adele actually screams, and Kimberly films it on Adele's phone and posts it.
Second
Second
stop.
stop.
Target.
Here you go.
Looking at t-shirts. Third stop. Change room.
Look at the price tag.
$21.
$21. Kimberly just shoves the shirt inside her hoodie and walks out past the registers.
Fourth stop.
Uh-oh.
Oh, is that your sister?
Her sister.
I need to talk to you.
Whatever.
What about? You're wearing my shirt.
Big deal. But that's not the real reason her sister came to look for Kimberly.
Well, Mum knows you took her money, and now you're taking my clothes. What do you think she's going to say when we go home?
Fifth stop.
Oh crap.
Don't want to go home.
So,
Back in the shitty car they sit.
Waiting.
It's past 9:30,
Kimberly keeps glancing over at the house.
and finally her mum comes out.
Here we go again.
Lecture imminent, Kimberly thinks in her smart voice.
Her mum walks around the car to the passenger side where Adele is sitting.
She knocks on the window glass and Adele winds it down.
Hi, Adele. I just had your mum on the phone. She's wondering where you are.
Yeah?
It might be time for you to go home.
Yeah, right. I'll walk you home.
No.
Bye.
Adele gets out while she can and walks a few doors down back to her house.
Kimberly waits for the order to get inside or go to her room.
But instead, her mum gets in the car and closes the door.
So you're just going to sit here in the car all night and as a way of avoiding talking to me, are you?
Kimberly sits, avoiding talking.
But she doesn't feel smart anymore.
Her stomach sinks.
Do you feel guilty when you nick stuff from me?
She looks away from her mum.
There's nothing she can say.
The reason why I know you took it is because I'm counting every coin.
Every coin.
I don't know whether I'm going to be able to afford to get the car fixed, let alone keeping the electricity on.
Nothing to say.
You know all this and yet you still take it. Why did you do that? I gave you some money.
Kimberly knows this is not going to end till she says something.
Well, sometimes I wish we didn't have to worry about money.
There. She said it.
She feels tears sting.
I know, babe. But you can't always get what you want.
You can't always get what you want,
Kimberly nods.
but it's not fair.
Shout out to Celia, Adele, and Kimberly from our crew who featured in this story. And special thanks to Juliet, who plays the mum, and Rebecca, who plays the sister. Before the next story, we're just going to check back in with Celia, who was one of the narrators you just heard on Late Night. We're just going to listen in on the conversation she had straight after she finished recording her lines. She's talking to Phil, one of our crew mentors. They were talking about the skill of being able to delay gratification when it comes to trying something new.
What would you miss out on if you didn't have that skill?
You'll miss out on a lot, actually.
Yeah, because nearly everything has that.
It has a skill.
Yeah, nearly everything. At first you're going to think, I don't want to do that. Like anything you learn, if you're learning something new, you feel dumb at first. You don't know how to do it. When you first came to, and we were doing the first recordings for the podcast, I think you said to me, I don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah. I didn't want to talk because I was nervous and I didn't know what to do.
And how do you feel about it now?
Feel good.
Yeah. Do you feel like you did a good job?
Yeah.
I think you did too. And what's interesting is when you look at it, the first lines, it probably was a bit harder, but by the time we got to telling the late night story, which you were a key part of, it felt like, yeah, even really long lines, it didn't matter.
Yeah, because when I was like, oh, I hope I don't get longer lines because I might stuff up, but I went good.
A lot more of us got involved in this next conversation, and as a starting point, we will give you these thoughts. If you always have more than you need, more than enough, it might be easier to delay gratification because you know you can always get something else later. Mind you, when you are really little, it might not make that much difference because even if you have plenty, you want what you want, right? And you want what you want right now. Story 3, marshmallows.
So picture this. You're 4 or 5 years old. You're brought into a room and there's a marshmallow on the table. Do you like marshmallows?
Yes.
Yeah, love them.
Okay, good. So the adult in the room, you're 4 or 5, right? The adult in the room says, you can eat the marshmallow right now, but they just have to step out of the room for a short time. They're coming back, and if you wait for them to get back and you don't eat this marshmallow, they'll give you 2 marshmallows, but only if you don't eat this one. What would you do?
If I'm thinking back to my 5-year-old mischievous self, I'd probably munch on it right then and there.
Why would you want to eat it instead of waiting for 2?
Because it's just, they might be taken for like an hour.
Yeah, when you're 5,
yeah,
hungry, you just eat.
I would so eat the marshmallow. Because when you're 4 or 5, you don't know what to do. You just do what you want.
Yeah, pretty
basically.
So this is actually a famous experiment done in the 1960s by this psychologist named Walter Mischel at an American university. So they filmed it, and lots of people have replicated it. So you can actually find like heaps of examples. If you search marshmallow test on YouTube, you can, as you can imagine, possibly TikTok.
I've seen it on TikTok.
You've seen the marshmallow test? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So what is it like? Describe what you see. Like, what are the kids doing when they're looking at the marshmallow?
Very tempted to eat it. You have some kids that don't eat it.
This one on YouTube. So like the marshmallow's like right in front of the kid and they go like looking at all the different angles of it and all that and just dreaming, like thinking about how they're going to eat it. I remember this one video, as soon as the adult left the room, just munched it straight away.
All right. The study was aimed to show which kids were able to do something called delay gratification. So that is like putting off something good or putting off something in order to get something better later. So can you think of any other examples of that?
Chores.
Chores, yeah. So what's the good thing that you get eventually from
Money.
doing them?
Free time.
Free time, yeah. Okay. Do you do you guys play sports?
Yeah. Yes.
Is training as good as the game?
Oh, nah.
No.
Why not?
No.
Training's so much effort.
So the game is better than the training. But if you didn't train,
But if
would
you
the
want-
game be good?
No, you'd be like sluggish.
You train just to get, like, just for that one day, like for that one game, and then like you either win or you lose, and either way it pays off because, like, you tried your hardest out there and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting because there's a reward that's the self-satisfaction of knowing that you put up with the hard stuff and you've achieved your own personal goal, irregardless of whether you win or not.
Yeah.
Do you think that being able to delay gratification, is that an important skill?
Yeah. You show up game day, you haven't sat there for all those drills, you haven't sat there to see what position you are. Like, you don't know what plays they're playing and all that sort of stuff. They could call a play, and then they're halfway up the court, you're sitting there not knowing what to do.
You get nowhere with your life. You always get the second best option instead of getting the best option.
But there was a sort of another side to this whole experiment, which maybe some of the things that you've seen on TikTok and what have you didn't go into. So what actually they were doing was that those researchers, they went back and they followed the original kids in the 1960s who did that marshmallow test. They followed them as they got older.
That's creepy.
Wow, that's so
I know.
cool.
So I'm going to ask you guys to guess what the researchers found. Who do you think got better marks at school and beyond? Was it the kids who ate the marshmallows sooner, or was it the kids who waited longer?
The kids who waited.
I feel like the ones that waited because they listened.
You are right. Well, it was interesting because it wasn't the instructions. They were allowed to eat the marshmallow, so it wasn't, they didn't disobey. They also measured what they called risky behaviour. So who do you think had higher levels of risky behaviour? And what they included was criminal activity and drug and alcohol abuse. So who had more criminal activity and more drug and alcohol abuse? Was it the kids who ate the marshmallows straight away or the ones that waited?
The ones that munched on it straight away.
Yeah, straight away.
That's very, very stereotypical, but yeah, it is.
That is what they found. Which kids had better responses to stress and so better kind of health? Was it the ones who waited and got two, waited longer?
Kids who waited.
Yeah, because they had patience again.
So the ones who did better, had less drug and alcohol problems and better health, were all the ones who could, when they were 4 or 5, wait for the 2 marshmallows. Why would that be?
Patience is key.
Yeah.
If that happened to me when I was 5, I would have ate the marshmallow. I feel like I'm that kid, but like I'm like doing good. Like I got good health. I'm not doing drugs or alcohol. I'm not
jail.
Not in jail. I don't got a criminal record. Healthy. I'm living life.
It doesn't really make that much sense that just because you took a marshmallow when you're that age that you're going to be more.
So stupid.
If you were a parent and your 4-year-old straight away takes the marshmallow, aren't you going to be going, oh no, my child's going to be a drug addict and they're going to go to jail. What have I done wrong? Anyway, so that is like sometimes happens with scientific experiments.
Yeah.
Some people did the study again, right? And in the second time that they did, these people tried to do the same study, they used a lot more kids. So the kids in the original 1960s study were all the kids of staff people at the university. So when they replicated the study, they had kids from a lot more variety of backgrounds. So a lot more sort of financial backgrounds and social backgrounds and different classes and different racial backgrounds, that sort of thing. Interestingly, they found that once they took into account other things, such as the social and economic background of the families, then by the time they were 15, it didn't make much difference whether as a 4-year-old you could delay gratification. Some people just learn it later on. So hold on for a second. I'm going to say that again. When they took into account the social and economic background of the families. Let's put that another way. So it didn't make you more likely to be a criminal if you ate a marshmallow when you were 4. But it did make it more likely if your parents were poorer or not as well educated. So that seems like it might be a relief for the parents whose kids took the marshmallows straight away if they came from a wealthier background. But if you're a parent or a kid from a place considered more disadvantaged, then what? Lower marks? More stress and more drugs and alcohol? Huh. Happy days for rich people.
I kind of don't like that.
No.
Because I think I'm broke and I'm not a criminal or anything like that. So
no.
I mean, I hope I'm not a criminal.
But is that kind of like the same thing? Like it feels like just the same as going, you're determined by whether or not you eat a marshmallow when you're 4 is like some sort of indicator of what's going to happen in your life.
In your life, yeah.
Is that the same thing as if you're born into a family that doesn't have as much resources as someone else? It's not like...
That's a good way to put it.
These two brothers, like one's an alcoholic and one's actually gone places with his life. They both asked the same question, like, why are they doing what they're doing? They both said their dad was an alcoholic. But one's like success, like in the success and all that sort of stuff. And then one's same as the dad. So it's like the way you go about it pretty much.
Yeah, so everybody has a choice.
Yeah. There's a basketball player, LeBron James, right? He grew up without his dad, and in most of his life he had nowhere to live. And he was poor, everything like that. And then you look at how he turned out now. He's making millions. He's famous. One of the best players to ever play basketball. And his life turned around. But it just depends on what decisions you make.
Yeah. Do you think... I don't know anything about his story. Have you read anything about it? What does he say made the difference?
It was, for him, it was... because he grew up with a lot of less things than everyone else. And he was always told, like, he's never going to be good enough, this and that. It made him strive to be harder because he just wanted to prove everyone wrong.
Presumably LeBron James had to do a lot of delayed gratification in order to get what he wanted.
Yeah.
So you still want your kid, or anybody, to learn that skill.
Yeah.
How would you? How do you help someone to have that delayed gratification skill? Doesn't matter what age. How would you help them?
Oh, I don't really know.
So there's another version of the marshmallow test that might shed some light on this question. So another group of researchers redid this same study, but they gave it a twist that is interesting for this question. They divided the kids into 2 groups. So picture this. You're in the first group. You come into the room and there's an adult, and the adult gives you a box of crayons. You're 4, so you think that's cool.
Yeah.
And they say they're just stepping out, but when they come back, they're going to give you a bigger box of crayons. They go out and they come back, and they don't bring you a bigger box of crayons. But they do say, here's a sticker, and I'm going to step out of the room, and when I come back, I'm going to bring you a bigger box of stickers, and you can choose whatever sticker that you want. And they go out and they come back, and they don't bring you any other stickers. Then they stick the marshmallow in front of you and they say, you can eat this marshmallow right now, but I'm just going to step out of the room, and when I come back, if you don't eat it, I'll give you 2. Do you think those kids were more likely to eat the marshmallow or less likely?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. They're getting told that when they come back, they're going to be given all this stuff and they don't get it. So, like, it's going to get to a point where they're not going to believe you that you're actually going to bring it back.
Yeah, it's basically like when you keep lying, no one's going to believe you.
That's just false hope. Like, you're telling them that you're going to go get something even better, and then you don't come, but then you're like, oh, well, I might as well eat it because I'm not going to get it. So.
Let's look at it the other way and see if this also helps to understand how we might help someone get this skill. So you're in the second group then.
Okay.
When you come into the room, the adult gives you a box of crayons and they say, I'm just stepping out, and when I come back, I'm going to give you a bigger box of crayons. They go out and they come back, and they do. They give you a bigger box of crayons. And then they say, here's a sticker. And they say, I'm going to step out, but when I come back, I'm going to give you a bigger box of stickers, and you can choose whatever sticker that you want. They step out, they come back, and they do. They give you a bigger box of stickers. And then they say, here's a marshmallow. But if you don't eat it, when I come back, I'll give you 2. Do you think those kids were more likely to wait?
They would have been tempted to eat it, but I reckon they would have waited, not ate it.
That's what they found. They found that those kids waited for longer and more of them waited the whole time. So even at 4, they were able to delay gratification if they had reliable experiences. So what do you take from that?
Yeah, I guess you learn from experiences.
And then, like, you can learn from trust.
Yeah, giving people trustworthy or reliable experiences helps us to build up that skill of delaying gratification, which we, after all, said was pretty important in life. What do you think that looks like?
If your coach is like, you got a light coach, and he'll give anything to you, you're not going to get anything good. But if you get a strict coach, as much as you hate them because they're making you do all this shit, in the end, you're going to be thanking them because everything that they've taught you comes back, and it shows you that the harder you work, the more things are going to come to you and come your way.
Yeah, that's interesting. Reliable experiences don't have to be mushy and soft. Sometimes reliable experiences are, these are the standards, and I will hold you to them. I won't let you walk over them.
It's all about trust. You got to gain the trust. You got to with some people, you got to build their trust before you can actually even start talking about like what's going on with them and all that sort of stuff. You know, to show them that like you're not gonna just go away like everyone else and all that. Shout out to Tristan, Kira, Nikki, myself, Lily, Zoe, Daniel, Jesse, Shaniqua, and Anthony, who feature in that story.
But I get the feeling that you're holding back. Everywhere I go, do your own thing. Really got no choice, so you choose to choose. I shouldn't change for the people that told me. That feeling, you gotta hit us up. Let's flip it back to the time when we tried and we made it through to the other side. And the pressure made the challenge real, was so passionate.
So as we said earlier, a classic example of delayed gratification is eating your veggies in order to get sweets. And if you don't, go to bed. I expect a lot of us have heard that one before. So it's eat something healthy in order to get the reward of something not so healthy. But can it work in reverse? Story 4, bad food.
Growing up, she ate too much bad food.
It wasn't that her mother and grandparents didn't know any better.
They were nurses and ambulance officers.
They knew what healthy food was, but they were tired and stressed.
And angry.
They smoked too and gambled.
These things often went hand in hand. Bad food and bad decisions.
Bad food and bad decisions.
Families on television said grace before dinner.
The girl's grandfather said,
"Don't talk while the news is on."
Dinner was often the same lacklustre fare.
Meat and 3 veg cooked to the point of disintegration.
Fish fingers either burned or slightly frozen in the middle, or both. If she didn't like what was on the table, she had to eat scrambled eggs.
Over the years, she ate a lot of scrambled eggs. Her grandmother cooked sausages under the grill while she had a glass of port. When they caught fire, she turned them over and poured herself another glass.
Another glass.
Perhaps this is an unfair memory.
The girl was around 4 or 5.
4 or 5 at this point, when her grandfather was either about to leave or had just left, and she was being sheltered from what must have been an agonising separation.
Agonising separation.
You're not participating in the family, her mother used to say if she tried to refuse dessert.
You're not participating in the family, her mother used to say when she refused the vodka cruises her mother bought her unasked for when she was still underage. You're not participating in the family, her mother said, when the girl refused a Leagues Club membership for her 18th birthday because she didn't want to play the pokies.
She doesn't want to play pokies.
When she left home, earlier than most people would, she earned her place in the spare bed at a friend's house by cooking for their family. She was actually a pretty good cook, and at the time she could explain with a smile on her face that she had taught herself to cook because her mother was always out at the club.
Because her mother was always at the club.
That smile got harder to keep up over time.
Once she was free to make her own food decisions, even though, as she worked full-time and started at uni, she was tired and stressed and angry a lot. She chose fresh food, whole food, Cooking was cathartic, knowing that she was in control of what she was eating.
And there wasn't a fish finger or boiled vegetable inside.
Spanish omelette in front of our amazing pretend studio audience at the open mic.
Like 6 eggs, hey?
A capsicum,
A potato.
An
butter
onion,
or margarine,
mushrooms.
baby spinach, optional. 1.
Grate the potato and squeeze all the water out until your hands feel like they have given up and you'll never be able to pick up anything ever again. Put aside.
2. Slice your onion,
Slice your onion, mushrooms and capsicum.
super thin.
As thin as you can. Thinner.
You're not trying hard enough.
You're not trying hard enough. What knife are you using?
Try a different one.
3.
Break the eggs open. It doesn't matter about separating them so you can make as much mess as you want. Go nuts. Just pick out all the shell out of the bowl afterwards.
Whisk them up.
Add a little milk if you want, but it's not a big deal if not. Personal taste.
Personal taste.
Personal taste.
4. Oh shit, I forgot to mention cheese earlier.
Look in the fridge and see if you've got any grated cheese.
Do you? Thank fudge for that.
It's way too late to go shopping now.
5.
Melt the margarine or butter or whatever in a hot pan. I mean hot.
It's got to be sizzly butter, not just wet. 6.
Fry your onions off and get them good and brown.
Not just translucent, brown.
It takes a long time.
It takes a long time. Don't be a coward. Sizzle, sizzle.
Add in your mushrooms and capsicum.
The mushrooms are going to suck up all the butter.
Don't panic and throw a bunch more butter in or you won't get a good sear.
When all of it's nice and brown, slide it into a bowl.
7.
Now you can add more butter in.
Spread your potato strands into a loose rusty and press it down with a spatula and let it cook for a bit.
Try to flip it. You'll probably stuff it up, but that doesn't matter.
Just tuck it back together. Add your veg back in and then pour your cheesy egg mix over the top.
Get your egg cooked through and you're good to go.
For a real restaurant finish, you can slide it under the grill.
But that's only if your pan doesn't have a plastic handle. 8.
Bon appetit, you rock stars.
Shout out to Georgia, Chloe, Latoya, and Cage who feature in that story. And thanks again to friend of the show, Emma, who helped to write that story. A few of us sat down to talk a bit more about food, and we asked Amanda from Headspace to come and join us. Story 5, Seeing in the Dark.
What do you reckon your diets are like? Do you reckon they're healthy diets?
No.
Why do you think they're not healthy? What do you eat?
Microwave pizzas and cereal.
Me and my friends will have like chocolate, Coke. Every weekend when I go out, all I get is $5 pizzas all the time.
When I work in that, I either get Parmigiana or I go to Macca's.
And is it easy to go to Macca's?
Yeah.
It's pretty easy, isn't it?
No.
It's not easy?
Mm-mm.
Sometimes, like, I'll be like playing my game or something, like with my mates, and then someone would say something about an ice cream or a drink, and then it'd make me think about wanting to go get one. Then I'd want one really bad, but I wouldn't have the effort to go for a walk to get it.
Sometimes it comes down to what food you've already got at home. Like your choice of what to eat is based on what's there in the house, isn't it? Do you feel like you've got a lot of choice around what you eat?
No.
Yeah.
So at my place, there's like 12 people in total.
Wow.
9 kids, 3 adults.
Yep.
In a big house like mine, it's mostly just like cheap, quick to cook stuff.
When we're at school or from people that talk to us about our health, I just think it's really interesting that we give out that standard advice and we don't think about how young people are going to use that or whether they are able to use that advice. What sort of things does your mum cook?
She cooks veggies, schnitzels, mince.
Yeah. So just like normal food, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't sound too unhealthy. Do you ever cook?
Mum usually gets HelloFresh and yeah, I just cook that.
Yeah, that's pretty healthy, isn't it? Lots of veggies and stuff in that.
Yeah.
What is HelloFresh?
You get like a box.
So it's like delivered to your house kind of thing.
So you get all the ingredients and you get a recipe and stuff, but you get exactly what you need. So you don't have to measure stuff. It comes already measured out.
The downside of it is that it's not that cheap.
No.
And then even when we don't do that, like Mum tries to buy like all different stuff, like so we're not eating the same thing.
Has she said why she does that, or what do you think is the reason behind it?
I don't know. Mum would see something and she goes, "Oh, I want to try this," so she'll just get it and make us all eat it.
What do you think about that? Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever there's like cucumber in the house, I try to have a lot of that because cucumber's just the best.
It's so good with salt.
It's really interesting how different everyone's house is, right? I think that's really interesting when you think about the advice that you get about what a healthy diet is so, it's just really like standard advice, right? Like everyone should eat more fruit and veg. But that doesn't really take into consideration what your life looks like and what kind of choices you have, because the three of you have all just told me totally different stories about how dinner works at your house, and that's not really based on the foods that you like to eat, is it? There's all these other pressures, like how many people are in the house and what we can afford to buy, or what kind of skills we might have in the kitchen, or whether we have an adventurous personality or not. So there's all these different reasons that impact on the food we eat that really sit outside of that good diet, healthy diet advice that we often get.
Everybody's always wandering around going, I'm not being healthy.
Yeah.
But actually, you all just said lots of things about the foods that you were eating that are healthy,
exactly.
But you actually focus on, I'm not eating healthy.
Yeah.
But that's I think that's the problem of the message. The problem of the message makes you think I'm not being healthy.
How do you feel? Like, say you eat a massive big meal from McDonald's.
Yeah, I feel sorry for my body after it because, like, I feel like I'll gain heaps of weight.
So it's like a guilt thing that you're feeling, yeah?
Yeah.
We often give people the message that they have to eat healthy food because of like the long-term impact that it's going to have on them. Like, you know, you'll put weight on and then in the future you'll be more unhealthy because it's not healthy to have lots of extra weight, or because, you know, you might get diabetes, or it's going to affect the way your body grows in the future. Something that a lot of young people don't actually know, because it's not the message we've been sending, is that what you eat has an impact on your mind almost straight away every day. And so eating better food actually makes you feel better. Like, there's been studies done that show that people who eat a healthy diet and get a bit of physical activity every day, it's almost like a treatment for your mind if you're having some mental health struggles. And because we know that the same thing happens then if you eat bad food, or if you don't move your body at all, that can have an impact on your mind in a bad way, so you can start to feel more depressed or feel more anxious.
I think that makes me there's a tiny little bit of makes me feel sad about that though. If those sort of healthy foods can make you feel better, and some of us have got under quite a lot of pressure, because there's difficult things happening either at school or home, or, you know, don't know what I'm doing, and then you actually don't have access to, it's like not having access to the medicine. I don't have access to the medicine that's going to make me feel better. That sucks.
I don't know. Ice cream works pretty well when you're sad.
That's true.
Pizza does as well.
And chocolate. Yeah.
Yes.
You're all about the pizza.
Yes.
We've done a really good job of telling young people what food they should eat, and we haven't gone that extra step and thought about, well, what is it that young people eat, and why do they eat that, and how are they going to be able to follow the advice that we've given them? They don't have money of their own. They're not in charge of doing the grocery shopping. They rarely have a choice in what it is that they eat. You know, there's all these other factors. What are their friends eating? What makes them feel good when they eat it? Because we know that how they feel is affected by all of their life. We know that it's affected by how they're going at school, or if they can get a job, or, you know, if they're getting enough sleep, or if they might be drinking a little bit too much, or if their diet could be improved, because you're a whole person, right? You're not just what your mental health is like on that particular day. All of those things are what are determining what you eat, not necessarily advice on what is healthy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It seems like the advice is supposed to turn on the light or something, help us see more clearly, but because it doesn't really take into account of how we feel or what is actually going on behind the feelings, and it makes us feel guilty, it's actually more like keeping us in the dark.
When I was little, so my mum didn't really like carrots, so she'd give me all her carrots, but she would always tell me that carrots could help you see in the dark, so I'd always eat a lot of carrots because I just thought that was cool. Shout out to me, Bella and Salea who feature in that story. Amanda works for Headspace, a free youth health service that has set up in a lot of places around Australia. A lot of us have heard of Headspace, and some of us have been to a Headspace office. And we know that you go there because of how you feel. And how you feel can be affected by all kinds of things, including your diet, sleep, as well as your mental health. And that is why they have a range of different health services in the one place that can assist young people in a whole lot of ways. And that brings us to our final story for this episode of Shaping How I Feel Today. Delaying gratification requires a bit of thought and planning, figuring how to get what you want or need, and making a set of decisions to get there. Story 6, One Shiny Paperclip. The pool was busy but not too packed.
It was hot,
but a little bit cloudy.
And that was enough to keep some people away.
Hey Nick,
said Blake.
He had that stupid terry toweling hat on.
What was his mother thinking making him wear that stupid hat?
Thought Nick.
Can't you see he wants to fit in? And the hat is not helping.
Hey Blake.
Hey, he said back.
Blake was not popular. He was a bit, well, you know, quirky. But he was alright.
Nick knew Blake wanted to hang out with him, but Nick had something else on his mind.
Catch you later,
he said.
And walked past.
Hey Nick,
said Denny.
I think she likes me, thought Nick.
Denny was pretty. She had long red hair and a great smile.
Hey, he said back.
She was taking some things out of her bag and she was putting them on her towel.
Nick noticed the Tupperware container that no doubt contained some of her mum's homemade chopped chip biscuits.
Definitely coming back here for a chat, he thought.
But he also noticed as he passed that Denny's shoulders were starting to burn.
He walked past his sister Corinne lying on her beach towel.
Corinne was in year 12.
And had her books and notes in front of her like she was supposedly studying.
Denny's shoulders are starting to burn, he said to Corinne.
Care factor 0,
she said.
That's harsh, he said.
Go away, I'm trying to study.
She laid her head face down on the towel.
I reckon you're going to get A+ in tanning, he said.
She lifted her hand and showed him the finger.
Hey, Dougie.
Nick said to the lifeguard. Dougie didn't say anything.
Just looked at Nick as he walked past and raised his broad eyebrows.
He's thinking about how long till his coffee break, thought Nick, and what he can get to eat.
Dougie was starting to get a little bit of a gut on him.
Sweet tooth, he'd told Nick once when he was scoffing down a massive iced donut.
Nick stopped a few metres away from the canteen.
He stood far enough away so that the lady wouldn't ask what he wanted.
Actually, he needn't have done that really.
She wasn't looking at him.
It was hard to get her attention even when he did have money and wanted to buy something.
She would look up at you from whatever she was doing like you were a cockroach that she really wanted to crush.
And then waddle over to the counter, turning her lip up at whatever you wanted to order.
What he wanted was an ice cream.
Not just any ice cream.
Not just any ice cream.
He wanted a Magnum.
He wanted a Magnum.
He never had a Magnum.
But they looked like prestige.
Blake's mum brought him a Magnum every day when he came to the pool. Nick had wondered how they always had enough money for that.
Magnums are $4. And today, pretty much like every day, he had no money.
Nick had no money. There was no way to sweet talk the canteen lady. He had tried before.
She had swatted him away like a fly.
Like a fly.
He turned away.
What to do?
He surveyed the scene.
The toddler pool?
Not too many adults had been in there today.
No.
Nah, better try the Olympic pool. He walked along the tiled edge as if he was a swimming coach watching his students, looking down intently at the water, looking for...
There, a glint of something. Nick dived into the pool gracefully.
He swam straight, opening his eyes under the water and feeling the sting of it.
His dive aim was good and his fingers prized up the shiny object lying at the bottom of the pool.
His legs pushed up from the smooth blue bowl of the pool's deep end, and he glided through bubbles to the surface, breaking through the shiny top layer back into air.
Back into air.
He pulled his hand up out of the water,
his legs kicking rhythmically to keep him afloat.
So he could see what he had found.
A paperclip.
Damn.
He had hoped for at least a 20-cent coin.
He hoisted himself out of the water. He stood on the edge of the pool, shaking his hair and body so that the water droplets fanned off him in rainbows. He put the paperclip in his pocket and continued his walk around the pool, scanning for coins.
15 minutes later, he had finished walking over the whole grass area around the pool.
Nothing.
There was no money in the change room or toilets either.
He found himself back at the canteen.
Some other kid was there eating a Magnum.
Nick couldn't help himself.
He scowled at the kid. He fished in his pocket for the paperclip and pulled it out.
Useless. What could he do with a paperclip at the pool?
What could he do with a paperclip at the pool?
He looked around.
Blake's helicopter mum, Mrs. Cooper, was rubbing more sunscreen on Blake's face. Didn't she ever leave him alone?
Dougie looking again at his watch.
Denny eating a packet of crisps.
His sister Corinne. The papers in front of her suddenly picked up in a gust of wind.
And then she was up scrambling and cursing, trying to get them all before they blew towards the pool. A thought.
A plan bloomed in Nick's mind.
He strode over to Corinne, scooping up Escapee pages as he went.
Want this?
He said, holding up the paperclip.
She looked at him, surprised.
Yeah, where did you get that?
Found it.
He took the pages she had gathered from her and quickly added them to the ones he had scooped up. He efficiently flicked them through, sorting the page numbers the best he could, and then slid the paperclip on the bundle. He handed them to Corinne. She looked like one of those big-eyed lemurs. You know, the ones that look permanently shocked.
Who are you and what did you do with my brother?
Can I grab some of your sunscreen?
What?
Sunscreen.
She nodded and was still standing looking at him long after he had walked away.
Am I? Said Denny, pressing her fingers into her skin.
He could see the white show bright through the red as she pressed on her shoulder.
Oh no, she said, kind of embarrassed. Here, he said. He held up his hands, showing the sunscreen he had lathered on there. He gestured his hands towards her shoulders and gave her a questioning look.
She turned a little towards him. He stepped forward and behind her, he placed his hands on her shoulders, gently massaging the sunscreen into her skin.
She closed her eyes.
He made sure he covered down her back and arms as well.
Thanks, she said.
No problem.
No problem, he smiled, standing, waiting.
You want one of my mum's choc chips?
Is the Pope a Catholic, he said, mimicking something his pop would say.
She opened the lid.
He selected carefully.
Thanks, he said. Got to do something, but I'll be back.
Good timing,
said Dougie, taking the choc chip biscuit.
This will go well with my coffee. You and my boy are a legend.
No worries, said Nick. I forgot my hat today. Can I get one from Lost Property? Sure, if there's any there.
But Nick knew there was one there. He saw it go in yesterday. A super cool Lakers bucket cap.
He saw the mother of triplets handing it in to one of the other lifeguards, who chucked it in the box. I would never have handed that in, Nick had thought. No way!
Nick walked up to Blake wearing the cool hat.
Hey buddy, wanna swap hats?
What?
Said Blake.
Wanna swap hats with me?
Blake looked confused.
Yeah, I don't know though. I don't know if my mum will like that.
It's the same sort of hat. Still has a rim all around. I tell you what, I'll sweet talk your mum. Then you can come hang out with me and Danny.
Blake couldn't have looked more happy sitting on Denny's towel with Nick, eating one of those famous choc chip biscuits. He started glowing.
I mean, glowing more than Denny's shoulders when she told him she thought the hat looked cool on him. Nick, in the now decidedly cool-looking terry-toweling hat, surveyed the scene.
Dougie was coming back on his shift with that extra coffee spring in his step.
Corinne was flicking through her paperclip documents and underlining things with a highlighter.
Danny was looking at Nick when she thought he wasn't looking, and he was secretly looking at her too.
It was all good. He had done what he needed to do. He needed no reward. Here you go. Blake's mum appeared in front of the three of them and handed them each a Magnum.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Cooper, Nick said almost religiously.
Well, Blake usually has one at the pool, and when you said that you never tried one, I thought, well, that's not right. Blake's friends deserve a treat as well.
She beamed at Nick.
And she looked sort of, what was it? Grateful, thought Nick.
He looked at her warmly and kind of gave her the raised eyebrow nod.
Well,
she said, taking his hint.
I'll leave you all to it.
She turned to go, but stopped.
She can't help herself.
She can't help herself, thought Nick.
Blake, she said, more sunscreen.
Yeah, Mum, in an hour.
Blake said quickly, looking down.
Mrs. Cooper walked away.
I reckon your mum's cool, said Denny to Blake. And generous. She looked down at her Magnum. This was it.
Nick took the silver paper off the Magnum and took a bite.
It was just what he imagined. Just what he wanted. Just as it should be.
Shout out to Georgia, Bryce, myself, Bella, Jackson, Nick, Zoe, Harry, Celia, Malachi, Morris, and Josh, who feature in that story. If you've enjoyed listening to our podcast, you can support us to keep making more stories by going to Beyond Empathy's website and donating. You can make a one-off donation or commit to supporting us regularly. Every bit helps a lot. It's an easy site to find. www.be.org.au. That's B for beyond and E for empathy, so be.org.au. And even if you can't support us with money, you can really help us by spreading the word. Like our podcast wherever you can, give the podcast a rating, and tell your friends, colleagues, families to listen to. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, like our posts and share them, you know what to do.
And if you want to have a conversation with the young people who've created Shift, we are also telling a bunch of our stories in what we are calling podformances. Podformances can be live, virtual, or both. You can even host one. You could ask us to come and present at your school, or for your team meeting, your conference, your event. Our young stars can appear live or virtually, or both, tell a few stories and have a yarn about health and whatever else comes up. Just get in contact via our website. Okay, I'm going to whip through the credits now, and if you stay to the end of that on any of our podcasts, you're going to get to hear some comments and feedback from our listeners, maybe even yourself. So send us a message and also stay tuned. The people who made today's podcast are Georgia, Tristan, Kira, Nikki, Zane, Bryce, Phil, Daniel, Caitlin, Dylan, Jackson, Bella, Lily, Shanice, Nick, Harry, Zoe, Daniel, Jesse, Chloe, Celia, Malachi, Emma, Adele, Alice, Kimberly, Gemma, Shaniqua, Elias, Anthony, Morris, Cage, and Michaela. The song Right Thing that you heard in today's episode is by David Lahar. The other music that you heard in the stories is from Philip Okerstrom, Damien Mason, and also Kevin MacLeod. Beyond Empathy has received funding for the podcasts from The Edge from the Australia Council for the Arts, Create New South Wales, Zurich Australia through the Z Zurich Foundation, Coordinaire, South Eastern New South Wales Public Health Network through the Australian Government Public Health Network program, the Australian Government Department of Social Services under the Families and Communities program through Bernardo's Australia, and also the Tony Foundation. One of the early listeners to our podcast wrote back this: "Wow, goosebumps. This is really very good and quite the roller coaster of experience." Thanks, Joe. Next time on Shift, you're going to get a story told through hip-hop, our hip-opera as we call it, plus jump rocks, frame running, and more around the theme of identity. Catch you then.